Perfect. Sounds good. Lisa, I got this for us. Make sure my sound's working.
Everybody's got some water.
Okay.
I mean, there'll be more in the big things for tonight.
But everybody's got at least a little bit.
But you need to get out. So yeah, the dogs and chickens are all waiting. You need to do these things. See right through here, feels like a giant worm.
Yeah.
It's like pushing its way through my round and round. It's really uncomfortable.
Okay. I'm gonna go get everyone. Feel better. I'm gonna go get everyone.
Look at this real quick before I throw it away. Ridiculous.
What is it?
I thought they were posters.
Oh, this is for a card? That's funny.
Every pamphlet is like highlighted, colorful, wasted paper. Look, it's like somebody went around the office and just emptied their things.
Crazy. Hey everyone. Oh, thanks for the host, even though I knew it was coming. So, hi everyone. I'm Dr. Firefly, and we're gonna go feed the chickens. So this is my daily show where we go out into my homestead, or what I call my lab. That's this area right about there. I roughly have about an acre set up for lots of experiments and lots of different ways to teach people a variety of different ways to do things. And every day we go out here, we feed the chickens, we feed the ducks, we feed the rabbits. We got some ducks hanging out right here. So usually I have a little bit more of an intro, but since I was kind of rushed because I was in town when I said I was going to be home in 10 minutes. So today's episode, we're actually going to be talking about homesteading, farming, and the dreaded worst thing all is being sick on top of that. So today, Lisa is not feeling good. So she did the best she could this morning, but now it is down to me to make sure everything else that she usually covers when we're doing this, and now I'm doing it all by myself. With homesteading, it's really helpful to do stuff as a team player. It's really good to have two different people working together and such. So let's walk over. Let me give you guys a quick little tour of the, hey everyone. We can walk over here and check out the ducks and my duck pond and everything else. What'd you say? I can't, it'll be a minute, I can't hear you. Thank you so much for the diamond. So here we are at the, this is one of our duck ponds. And this is actually a swell that I've dug. And these are, most everything you see in here, the white and black ones, those are cayugas, or they're Swedish. And then the brown one, there's one brown one there, and I don't know where the female is. Those are actually khaki Campbells. And then I'll show you, these guys right here are Muscovies. And the Muscovies, they are spectacular. They are really probably one of the best homesteading animals to start off with. They can fly, they can eat snakes and mice, and they also are spectacular at free ranging. The other cool thing about the Muscovies is, and you'll see them if you're ever in the South, you'll actually see them in a lot of places in the South. Here's a female Muscovy. The great thing about Muscovies is they are absolutely spectacular. They are absolutely spectacular at free ranging and finding a bunch of, and finding all the food that you need to survive and such. So that's another reason they're great for the homestead. So we can go in. Let's go check out. There's one of my roosters running around. There's a good example. There's a bunny, a rooster, and a duck. That's pretty much what my backyard consists of most of the time. So before we go check out the chickens, let's go say hi to Sylvia, since she'll like to. She'd be interested in saying hi to everyone. The ducks actually stay here because this is where they get their food, and so they're pretty happy, and I never usually have to worry too much about them flying away. So here is Sylvia. She is my 600-pound Yorkshire pig. So pigs are really interesting animals. Actually, what her purpose here on the farm is she actually tills up a lot of the soil and such for me. And then she also she's an apex predator, so she also keeps like the things like the coyotes and the bears and any of the things. I asked her if she was related to Amy Schumer, and she wasn't sure. She said she saw the resemblance, but she wasn't entirely sure. I told her the pig Sylvia. I told her she was a little bit more attractive. And there's a delay. You'll notice that there's actually a delay. I have about a 9-second delay on this stream, so yeah. Oh, this is Fernando, because he sees me out here and he likes to say hi. So let's go in. Let's check out the chickens. Exactly. You don't eat pigs. One thing that a lot of people don't realize is pigs can digest bones. So if someone ever, if you ever just need a good place to dispose of bones of any sort, a pig will eat them. And I'm not telling anybody what to do or giving anybody any particular advice. So this is the Kuppenheimer barn. We've got some chickens hanging out up here. This entire barn is actually built out of wooden pallets. And then each of these little chicken cages are chicken modulars, and these actually go outside in the spring and in the summer, and then I actually move them around to different parts of the yard, and that in turn means that the chickens get to mow, and they get to fertilize, and they get to weed, and they do all the work for me, plus they get that whole feeling of free ranging without having to worry about being eaten by predators. So if anybody Yeah, anybody is welcome. I live in southern West Virginia, and anybody is welcome. If you're ever down this way, you're absolutely always welcome to swing by and come hang out and have some coffee or some shine, or just come and hang out with the chickens or meet every. They're fluffy teddy bears. Silkies got real popular because some rich people decided to have them as pets not too long ago, because they're one of the calmest of the chickens that you can have. Very friendly. We'll peek down here. This one. Roosters together, just don't know what they're doing yet. So, but anyways, this is the chicken barn. This is where they all live. Yeah, well, what I like is you have chickens, and once you get to know a chicken, they actually have some crazy personalities. Like that chicken's name is Queen Lace, and she definitely rules the roost. Yes, they did. And exactly what Mark's saying. I'm going to agree with a lot of what they're saying instead of actually saying it out loud, trying not to draw a lot of extra attention to, if someone comes and visits me and is very angry and mean to me, then they know that I can just feed them to my pig. These are my, these guys are Old English. So they're actually a small chicken. What's great about this is if you ever wanted to raise chickens in your house and you just wanted to keep a small chicken, that's what these guys would be good at, because these guys would live perfectly fine in like a parrot cage. They would still produce you eggs. They would of course be small eggs, but they would still produce you eggs, but you'd still get all the benefits of having chickens. And you could probably argue to a lot of people, that you didn't know necessarily that they were chickens and that you were just raising indoor birds, because there's a lot of people that don't realize that chickens can actually be that small. Oh, and the camera's not, I can tell the camera's not working right now, but right, if you're ever watching the stream and you want to see, here is actually where one of the cameras is set up, and then it points, and that is the angle that you normally see. So the chicken I just showed you is the small chicken. It's in the Bantam family, and it is considered an Old English, or you'll also see some people call them game birds. Let me see if I can grab one if any of them decide that they're going to be mildly friendly. There we go. I got one. You're going to have to sit down for just a second. So as you can see how small this rooster is, and now that I upset everyone, let me step outside so you can actually hear something I'm saying. Okay, we're stepping outside. So that's about the size of this chicken. They're considered Old English or game birds. That's as big as they get. They lay nice small eggs. And if you ever go down to like, it's not that they're not happy, it's that when I start making noise, they all decide to make noise, and it becomes this crazy, like, loud noising. But anyways, if you're ever down in like Latin America or Cuba or Dominic or anything like this, this is actually the type of chickens that they use for fighting. What they do is they actually, right across their comb up there, if you can kind of see that line, they actually cut that line so they don't bleed as much. But in the places that cockfighting is still legal, these little guys are what they use. So, of course, I don't do anything that there. I just actually raise them because they're actually one of the species of chickens that's slowly getting on the endangered species list, because there's not really a good market value for them because they lay such small eggs. But they're really sweet and great chickens. Once you handle them a lot, you don't have to worry so much about them attacking you or fighting you. Most of the time, if you get attacked by a rooster or anything of that sort, that's usually because you've not handled it enough, or that you've stressed it out to the point where it doesn't realize that you're not the apex animal. All of my birds know that I am the head of the flock. So, and actually, yeah, that was a small chicken, or that was a really little cock. So I have there's some pretty decent sized ones. Anyways, well, we won't go there. So, and let's see, I showed you Sylvia. We haven't even started feeding anybody yet. You saw Fernando, because he has to have all the attention when I'm saying this. And so in there, the reason it was so loud, and I'm not sure how loud it was for you guys, but I'm just going to guess it was pretty loud. So I have 5 dreads, if that's what you're asking. So, and actually here, you can get this, it's like I told you before, it's like a Tim Pool reveal. So this, I just grow dreads on the one side of my head. So, and this one's actually a 100% fake dread, and all the other ones are either real or have 100% natural wool embedded into them. So here's what I look like without a hat. That's why I always wear a hat. So there you go. Anyways, what I was saying is chickens, I forget what I was saying, but we'll just start someplace new. With chickens and ducks, they are probably the very first things that you want to start when you're homesteading. Very easy. And actually, you can raise them both even in like a suburb or a city setting. Ducks are going to be a little bit harder in a city setting because they don't really like to be um, they really don't like to be confined as much as chickens don't mind being confined, but there are actually some ducks that you can raise in type of a city setting that do pretty well. So I would suggest that. And then the third probably most important thing to add to your homestead, or this is actually my advice to add to anyone that is planning on having a garden or anything, is to get some beehives. So I actually will walk over here real fast and I'll show you the hives and how I have them set up. And the reason, and then I'll give you a kind of a reason why you want to set up beehives. So, and yes, the chickens are spectacular for the eggs, but also for their fertilizer, which is really, really good at their poop and such, which makes a really, really good fertilizer. So here is one of my beehives. This one was actually set up to be winterized. As I've learned, even with standing here in front of this bee path in the middle of the summer, I never got stung unless I was inside, get my hands inside the hive. And so this beehive sat right across from this little pear tree. This pear tree dropped me almost 2,000 pears this year just because the bees were right there across from it. So that is one of the humongous perks of having bees is they will make sure that everything that is flowering is going to bloom, and it's pretty awesome. Here's Sylvia, and this particular area you're looking at right now is where we're planning on putting some gardens next year. So, or this year, this spring coming up. So that's why she is in here tearing it up, doing all that kind of stuff. You know, I bet you could live only eating eggs. I also have some pretty awesome recipes, and I've been trying them from the 17 and 1800s. The latest one I tried was called Flip, and that's where you heat up some ale to about a boil, and you put it to the side. You let it cool just a little bit, and then you put a shot of rum, one egg, a pinch of ginger, a tablespoon of vanilla, a tablespoon of sugar, and a tablespoon of molasses. Then you heat back up the ale, you mix them both together, and then you drink it. And actually, it cooks the egg while that's all going on. And it sounds gross. And at first, it was a really weird. In general, it was actually really tasty, and I really enjoyed it. So, and I've noticed as I find old recipes, there's a lot of times that they were down in raw eggs whenever they possibly could. And I think it's because of the high protein levels and just because eggs were always easy to come by. But yeah, I try to eat raw eggs whenever possible, but that's because I know everything about where my eggs come from. So I would not probably eat a raw egg from a grocery store. But there's from everything that I've been researching and reading, there is a whole lot of nutritional value and some stuff that rebuilds the gut and such by eating raw eggs. So if you know someone that raises chickens and you can verify how old the eggs are and that they're fresh and that they come from a clean cage, then I would say that my advice is that there's probably no reason to be scared of eating raw eggs because it's the salmonella that you're mostly afraid of, and the salmonella is what's going to be on the outside of the shell and what's going to penetrate through the pores of the shell. And if you're eating a really fresh egg and it's coming from a healthy, clean chicken, you shouldn't have to worry too much about salmonella. So yes, so that's the advice I'm giving you. You take that with what you will. If you die, don't come back and try to find me and tell me that you shouldn't have listened to me because you're an adult and you can still make good decisions. So, yes, I actually have the recipe on how to make Duke's mayonnaise, how to make, let's see, there's Hellman's, there's Duke's, and then there's another type of mayonnaise. And I have the recipes on how to make all of those because sometimes it's just ridiculous to spend all that money on a name brand when you can make it yourself and have it taste just almost identical. So I believe the trick to Duke's is a pinch of it's like a little tiny bit of lemon juice. There's something else. So Miracle Whip is barely even mayonnaise, but that's pretty much a lot of sugar is what makes that one taste so sweet and tangy. I think it's sugar, vinegar, and a little bit of lemon juice, I think, is what makes that. But if anybody's interested in all these recipes, I have them all written down, and I'm more than happy to share them with you guys so that you guys can, if you're ever interested in making your own stuffs, because there's so much stuff that once you learn to start making yourself and you start doing it yourself, it's just so absolutely spectacular than going to the store and spending all that money to buy it. And it's also really cool to like trade it with your friends. That way you don't have to make it all yourself. You get really good at making one particular thing, and then your friend. Okay, thank you, the ugly Jew. But yeah, what I like to do is I like to try to convince some of my friends. We each try to make something a little different, and we get everybody gets really good at making something, and then we only have to make a little bit of it because we had just like a. Okay, bacon mayonnaise is pretty awesome. I will give you that. Oh, let me tell you, since we're jumping around from subject to subject, let me tell you something else that's really interesting. And some of you are going to definitely have to, if you're ever down this way and this is absolutely serious, swing by. If you only stop for this one reason, there are most of the year, Sylvia, my pig, she smells like maple syrup. It is the craziest thing ever. I have no idea why she smells like maple syrup, but because of that, I totally understand why people put maple on like ham and bacon. But I have some speculations because we have a lot of maple trees around, and she does chew on a lot of branches, and so there's some chances that it's the sugars from the trees and such she's chewing on and such. But man, is it crazy that she smells like that? And for those that are wondering, no, I will never eat her. She's 7 years old. She's a farm hand. She's part of the family, and she lives here, and she will not be eaten. And she's also my crazy experiment to see how long pigs live, because trying to find accurate information on a farm pig on what their life expectancy is really difficult. So I have it documented, and I'm going to have at least one documented case of a non-overfed farm pig, what their life expectancy is. So here we are. We are in the bunny barn. This is where all of the rescue bunnies that we've had throughout the course of the years, where they all live. And I'll also say a good portion of our animals are rescue animals. So Sylvia's a rescue animal. Most of our rabbits are rescue animals. I've had people dump horses here before. I've had some of the ducks we had are rescue ducks because somebody dumped ducks on our porch once. We've had people dump cats. They've dumped chickens. Yeah, pretty much. For some reason, my house seems like a place where people like to dump animals and such. It's absolutely crazy. I never really understand it, but it's just a place that that things get left. So we're crossing our fingers and we're saying, you know what? It'd be really nice if someone would dump us some baby sheep this year, because we would really like some baby sheep. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, but we can always say that. But yeah, sheep is our next mix that we're planning on getting. And the reason I've actually done some research on sheep, and I actually like sheep better than goats. Goats are awesome, crazy, like, animals. So I am not a vegetarian, but my significant other, Lisa, she is a vegetarian. I lightly eat meat, and I've said this to other folks out there before. Like, I have a lot of respect for folks that can kill their own meat. I don't have the ability to kill an animal. At least I haven't. Yes, I don't really. That you're talking about a really tough subject for me. So once it's dead, that's a whole different story. But taking its life force is just a little outside of my ability. But that being said, like, if someone wants me to raise really healthy, happy rabbits that they're going to eat, I'll be more than happy to do that. I just would, in that scenario, I'd rather not be present during the killing. But if they want to raise good quality meat, I have no problem raising it for that, because that is some of the purpose of some of the animals is to eat. And in that scenario, I know that animal had the best life possible because I was the one giving it its best life possible. And so if that animal has one awesome life and then one bad day, I'm fine with that. Then it's good positive energy gets put back into the person that's eating its body. And that's kind of how I view things. So I do my very best to try to limit store-bought meat. Occasionally I do, but it's just sometimes it's hit and miss. Sometimes I'm really lucky down here and I can find people that humanely raise their animals and have some really awesome stuff. And then other times I just have to deal with what's at the store just because that's all that's available at the time. No, that I Coffee Bear, I completely understand. And you know what? I have the utmost respect for that because I I would like to get to that. I would really like to get to that stage because I think it could be very. I think I could humanely do it, and I think that there is some of the animals and their purpose. And since the purpose of some animals is for us to eat, I do think that being able to do that and then still have that and being able to thank them afterwards and I view that emotional out, crying as emotional release. That's a thanks the animal for its life force. So I would like to get to that particular point, or even if I never get to that particular point, have someone like on grounds that's living here, either an intern or someone that's part of the new community I'm building, and that way we can give the total respect for the animal's energy that it's giving back to us, because really that's what we're eating. The reason meat tastes so good and the reason we're enjoy eating it and such is because it's the energy. It's the reason why a lot of our foods that we eat, if you eat and you eat a good salad or you eat just a really good hearty meal and just feel awesome afterwards, it's the energy coming from the way that plant or that animal was grown and just giving it back to you. It's that full cycle of harvesting energy around. And when you just when you sit back and you think of that on, a metaphysical and a logic level, it's both at the same time, and that's one of the most amazing things about how that all functions and works. It's so awesome. And yeah, that might sound a little crazy or woo-woo to some of you, but there's also a lot of science behind it too. I like I like trying to look at everything in that mix between science and woo-woo. Yes, I I met a butcher and he raises pigs, and he showed me how he raises his pigs. And if I ever find the video, because he also makes videos and such. Um, he did this spectacular. He showed the entire upbringing of this pig, and then he even showed like the harvesting it, the killing it, the harvesting it. But then this dude, he used 100%. Like, he was definitely one of those dudes that when you've heard grandparents, other people say they've used everything and the oink. Like this dude, he made head cheese and he made blood pudding, and it was amazing how he utilized everything from that pig that he raised and he ended up harvesting. So it's just wow, it's just so cool. And I think about that, and I think about how we have the ability to do that and how we don't, and how I just, as much as I think I'm okay at what we're doing, how much more of a direction I have to go to get better at utilizing all aspects of what the animals have to give me. So, and you might be also asking, well, why do you have these rabbits then if you don't eat the rabbits? So I do sell the rabbits. But the other perk that these rabbits do give is the rabbits, they make this, I don't know if you can see this, but it's a mix between food and hay and rabbit poop. This is spectacular soil to start with. You just mix a little bit of this with some topsoil and a little bit of sand, and once you've got a good seedling started, you got a little bit of seed, you got the rabbit poop, which is slow release. Man, you get some great, absolutely great stuff. And barbecuing is fun, I will admit. I will say that that is one of the things I do really do enjoy, the smell of meat on a grill or meat on a fire. It's there's just something primal about it and something spectacular. So I also really like fish. Fish on a grill. Oh, that's heavenly to me. So okay, let me make sure I got everybody as we were walking. Make sure I got everybody. I did not get these guys yet, or if I did, they're lying to me and they're still hungry. So we're gonna cover. We're gonna make sure that those guys have some in here. So yeah, usually every day I start off with a subject and we start talking about it, and then we get thrown off the subject and start talking more about all the animals and everything else. So, but at any time you're in here, if there's any question that you have with what I'm doing or anything dealing with farming, homesteading, West Virginia, outdoorsy stuff, you're welcome to just pop it into the question, because I know that there's a delay, and so I'm always ready to be thrown into a million different directions. In the spring, I've told some people this before, but in the spring I'm definitely going to be focusing more on gardening. And if possible, I'm going to be taking the phone out with me into the bush, and we're going to go and I'm going to teach you guys a little bit on some wildcrafting. We'll go around and identify some plants. Hopefully some of you guys will be able to come down this way to southern West Virginia, and we'll be able to go out in the woods, some of the parks, and we can go out there firsthand, and I can teach you some of the stuff to eat and how to cook some of the stuff up with. And there is just, you would be surprised the abundance. Then what you can do is you can take that home, and even in a suburb or a city setting, there are plenty of awesome stuff that you can be eating. I can go pretty much to any city that's got, no, I can go to any city. I can go to any city in the United States for sure. I could go to Detroit. I could go to Baltimore. I've done it at both of those places. That's how I know. I can go just about anywhere, and we can wildcraft through empty lots, through the backyards and such. We're good to go. Am I ready for the apocalypse? I have been ready for the apocalypse since 1999. So I was a total believer in Y2K, and I have computers that are set up in Faraday cages with important data on it, so that if something bad happens, um, I am set. So if that's what you're asking about the apocalypse, then yes, I am ready for. I'm ready for just about that. I have plenty of seeds. Oh, this is also since there's so many of you here today. My email is xdrfirefly@gmail.com. If you guys are interested in any seeds, I am just mailing off seeds to folks. I'll probably doing it at the end of February. So if you send me an email and you say, hey, dude, I'd like some seeds, give me your address and I will just mail you off some seeds. If you tell me a little bit about where you live or something, I might be able to customize some seeds that I know that can grow better your situation. But I think it's important for all of us to learn a little bit of how to grow some seeds. I've got a lot of access to awesome heirloom seeds, and I belong to a major food seed library down here, and they always have excess of seeds, and they always just have lots of cool stuff. And so I thought it'd be really, really fun. The only thing I'm asking for in return is if you have an awesome yield, save some of those seeds and mail them back to me. If you don't have an awesome yield, no worries, it was good practice. But that's just the way we can get seeds out to everyone, get everybody get their hand on some cool seeds. Everything I know is going to be heirloom or very, very extremely local. And when I mean extremely local, this might be the only place left on the planet that these plants are growing. And we have seeds and folks that are doing that kind of stuff. So getting it spread out there and all that kind of stuff. So well, I like that cue. That way I know that there's a question coming next, and I really enjoy that. So I should put that in my little description. If you want a question, put a cue ahead of time. That way, when I'm bouncing around, I know what I'm looking for. We gotta go get a bunny outside. Don't want to forget this guy, so you guys get to come with me. Also, I don't. Oh yeah, there's stuff you can grow in full shade. If you tell me what zone you're in, and I'd have to look some stuff up, but yeah, there's plenty of stuff that grows in full shade. So, like, actually, depending on where you live, sunchokes. They're a root. Really easy to grow, really easy. Really beautiful flower, lots and lots of awesome stuff. Extremely edible. They taste very similar to a potato, but have a zero of a glycemic level. So folks that they can't normally eat potatoes or anything because they're diabetic and such, you can eat sunchokes. Jerusalem artichokes is the other name for it, and they'll grow in full shade. Actually, those things will grow just about anywhere. So let's see what else grows in full shade. Another good plant to start off in full shade is berry bushes. Raspberries, blackberries. You're going to see a lot of people say they don't grow that well in full shade, but the truth is they'll actually stay smaller and they'll bush out. You won't get as many berries, but you will still get some berries. But what'll happen is they'll actually start improving the soil. So that is, one big perk of that. There's a lot of stuff in shade. So, like I said, I'll just have to give me a little bit about what zone you live in, because the problem is me giving advice to someone that lives up in the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, compared to giving someone like that's down in the Panhandle of Florida. You're gonna have we're gonna have completely different types of advice to give you on what shade actually means in those particular areas. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Blackberries will grow pretty much anywhere. So okay, you got loomy soil and you're in Florida. Okay, so understory trees. Oh, can you farm insects? Oh man, can you farm insects? It is super easy. So mealworms. I don't know if any of you go fishing or have had to buy the little they're like a little orange worm. A lot of people talk about eating them too. Um Mealworms, and I've been doing the experiment and I actually should videotape it and show it once. But those little mealworms, they're the little, just look it up. They'll end up you can pretty much feed mealworms on styrofoam. Seriously, it is insane. A few drops of water on some styrofoam, close it up so some air can get in there. Those mealworms will just eat and eat and eat the styrofoam. They'll break it down, and you'll have just a little like Cheeto styrofoam dust on everything. And they are absolutely crazy. How awesome they just break down styrofoam. And then you could eat those, or you could use those for chicken treats. Now, if you let them stay too long, they'll actually turn into these black beetles. The perk of the black beetles is those black beetles are what lays the eggs. But you can actually feed those black beetles to your chickens and such. The one thing I will tell you though, if you're ever going to eat bugs, wormy bugs are a lot easier to consume than beetle-y type bugs. So with the wormy bugs, once you crush them in your teeth, they kind of squish and they don't like explode. Where once they get that exoskeleton like a beetle, um, it's a sensation that takes a long time to get used to. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not a fan of eating bugs either. I just thought it was important. I should know what they taste like. So I ate some bugs to try to get the sensation, to try to explain it off to people. You'll also, after you follow me long enough, and especially when you get into the spring, there's not a plant I haven't tasted. So I know just about what everything tastes like outside. I can identify certain trees by the taste of their bark. That's just the way I functioned. I will give you a warning though. There will be some plants that if you're not used to eating it can make you sick. So, yeah, no, chickens will forage for a lot of stuff themselves, but sometimes it's really fun to make your own chicken food. You you can get parasites from eating a lot of stuff. Just heads up, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you can get parasites from eating. You can actually get parasites a lot of too by getting your hands cut up and then putting them in certain dirts or certain type of things. So there's a lot of stuff that when you're first starting to homestead or when you're first starting to, or if the apocalypse happened, that you do need to pay a lot of attention to, because there's a lot of as silly as this sounds, when you've lived in the country, you live a very clean life, even when you don't realize how clean you are. Where once you get out more into the country and more into like a wild setting, you naturally become a little bit dirtier because you're surrounded by more enzymes, you're surrounded by more bacteria, more things of that sort. Like tetanus is a great example. Most people don't get tetanus from a rusty nail. Most of the people that end up getting tetanus get tetanus from walking barefoot um, in a chicken yard or barefoot around animals, because the tetanus that is it a virus, I believe? That virus is actually in things like feces and such like that. So it's just things to pay attention to. That being said, there is natural ways to treat tetanus. If you ever do think you have it, I have a medical book that treats tetanus because I don't get a tetanus shot anymore. I every year I'll give myself some doses of this remedy in one of my old books about how to deal with tetanus. So, and most of the time I actually treat most of my own illnesses. Aspirin is one of the few over-the-counter medicines that I take. Everything else, if I have to take a medicine, I usually make it myself. So, and I say that I make it myself, and I've actually made a variety of other medicines to try to deal with stuff. And I have a handful that I will give people advice on how to make, and then there's other ones that I just haven't perfected yet. And I'm not at that stage to be able to advise how to treat things of that sort yet, that stuff yet. But the tetanus is one of the things I have no problem sharing with. Oh man, out of water. So we're gonna have to go get some water in just a second too, guys. Fill this up and go walk over, say hi to everyone. Oh, Wyandottes. Wyandottes are really, really fun. Are really, really fun chickens. Um, I enjoyed. My friends had some Wyandottes. I don't have any Wyandottes yet. Probably in the future. Yeah, there's the tetanus shot. It honestly, that's the reason I stopped getting the tetanus shot, is because I realized after actually talked to a holistic doctor that ended up telling me that the tetanus shot was pretty much useless. So yes, some of them are absolutely bullies. I in a video 3 days ago, I think it was, we put this hen and this young rooster together, and young roosters are called cockerels. So we put this hen and this young rooster together, and we were trying to start a new chicken family. And we came back the next day, and she had beat the crap out of this dude. She had pulled all of his tail feathers out. He was bloody and such, so we had to separate him. And so she decided that she was going to make sure that she let him know that she was in charge of that particular roost. And chickens will do that a lot. That's what's really interesting. And it's not always the roosters. A lot of times, some of the hens are some of the most aggressive out of all the chickens that I have. And sometimes I've had, like, well, with that story I just told you, I have the hens that beat up the roosters. So roosters are just loud and showy. But I usually always make sure that all my chicken families have two roosters. So I have my, I'm going to use the terms even though I don't necessarily think it falls into this terms. Okay, that's funny. Absolutely. um, uh, a good wormman turns a good cock bad. That's funny. Anyways, that was good. I lost my train of thought there for a second. So okay, so I always keep two roosters together. You'll hear me sometimes refer to it as the alpha and the beta, but in truth, it's just you've got your your leader and your guy that's number one in charge. So what normally happens in situations like that? So if a predator comes by, and this is for a larger flock, if a predator goes by and such, the beta rooster or the guy that's in second in charge, he will go around and he will start collecting all the hens. And he will come up to him and he'll make a special clucking noise or a special little noise. He'll go and he'll scoop up the hens and he'll move them over into a corner, and then he will stand right in front of them so that if something gets to him, they're the first one to get. The alpha male, he is out chasing down, making loud noises, flapping his wings, crowing at the sky, attacking, or just doing a lot of stuff. And so a lot of times, sometimes he'll end up in most scenarios he would actually get taken away, or he would get sacrificed for the flock because he was the alpha. And part of the reason that he does that is because being the alpha rooster or the head rooster, he knows that he was the one that's mated the most, and so he has the most of the offspring that are coming up are going to be his. Because usually the beta rooster does not get to mate. Every once in a while he'll sneak a little sexy time, but in general that doesn't normally get to happen. The alpha rooster is the one that is pretty much going to be related to most of the young coming up. What's also interesting is chickens, most of the time it's the size of the comb, which is how they decide if they're the same age, if they've grown up the same age. That's actually how they decide who is the head rooster, is who's got the larger comb. So that interesting as well. So that also adds to what we were talking about yesterday. So if you circumcise the comb, then he's half the man he used to be. Okay, again, sorry, I'm not good with jokes. I should just stop. So, but yeah, it's and do I have my chicken? And sometimes when you're having a bunch of young chickens up, do they all fight? Yeah, they do. And sometimes you get some pretty good fights, but I have never seen a fight. I have never seen any of my chickens decide they want to fight till their death. I've seen them fight until one of them is like exhausted and super tired, and then the other chicken just let him alone and said like, haha, I won, you're a wuss. But I've never seen them fight to the death. Most of the time, I'll tell you guys a little secret here. If you don't want to hear about cockfighting, then close your ears for a second. But a lot of times in cockfighting, what they'll do is they'll actually use some type of stimulant like a cocaine or a gunpowder, and they'll do some they'll get the chicken to eat it or something, and it gets the chicken all hyped up. And such. Oh, if you want your chicken to not be meat, your rooster not be meat, I'll tell you a trick in just a second. So yeah, a lot of times when you see the cockfighting where they fight to their death and such, it's because they've shot up their rooster, or they've pumped their rooster full of something that's not bueno. There's actually even people that give their roosters like steroid shots and crap. Because yes, cockfighting is still a real thing. Like I said, I don't do it, but I've been at places where it all of a sudden started happening. So, which is really hard. So, because I really like chickens. So, anyways, okay. So let me see if I can find my rooster one of my roosters outside real fast. Okay, found him. Yeah, a lot of Hispanics are. My friend's married to a Cuban, and she used to raise. Now they lived in Cuba, so they used to raise particular chickens just for the whole purpose of cockfighting. So they do put razor blades, even though you don't need to put razor blades. If you just sharpen up their spurs, you can do some crazy stuff with them too. Let me see if he knows I'm trying to catch him. Let me show you. Let me go in the barn. Let me show you a different one so I don't have to grab him. I don't have to chase him around. You guys get to see me acting like a fool. So, you have a really mean rooster. I'm going to give away one of my secrets because I joke around and tell people that I'm a chicken whisperer. So I'm going to give away one of my chicken secrets. Let me spin my camera around so I can show you this. Okay. So you have a really mean rooster. Yeah, no. Fighting roosters is super mean. But let's say you have a really mean rooster, and the rooster's just been super mean, and so the first thing you do is you need to catch it. So this might require a net or a sheet. But once you catch it, what you want to do is you want to cover their comb and their eyes. Okay? And you want to make sure they see you doing it. And you want to do it a couple times like what I'm doing. And then after you do that, you want to be able to do this. Because what you're doing now is in the chicken world, I'm telling him that I'm winning and he can't fight back because he can't reach my comb, mostly because I don't have one. So what you're doing here is you're telling this rooster that these are all the stuff that he uses to show his dominance. It's also how they use to cool down and heat up and such. But doing this is showing that you are dominant. Covering their eyes is what calms them down. So what you're doing here is you're kind of repeating stressing them, but not in the type of stress that's going to have them give a heart attack or anything like this. But this is one of the ways that you want to do this as often as possible. You want to get your chicken used to being able to touch its beak, put your finger in its mouth, grab its comb, grab its gobbles. So, being able to manipulate their feet even if they don't like it. And as you can see, he doesn't like being held, but he's handling it very well. So this is one of the tricks. Once I can get a rooster and I can get a hold of them, I usually can calm almost anyone down. And it might take a couple days to get used to it, to get down to doing this. But once you do that, you got nothing to worry about. So that's a little trick that a lot of people don't know. Another interesting trick, and one day I'll show you where they've got their spurs. I can actually show you Stop groping him. Yep, that's molesting chickens right there. I can actually show you how to easily twist off their spurs, and so they don't have such long spurs, and so they're down to just having short little nubs again. And the perk of that is they can actually, if the spurs get too long, they can actually get it caught on branches and caught on trees, and they can actually get it tangled up between their feet, and they can trip and such, and it's not bueno. So being able to twist them off. So I'll tell you guys how to do it, but it's easier to watch. Get a pair of pliers, go all the way to the base of the leg. You're just gonna gently twist it back. You're gently gonna twist it back and forth like you're turning a key. And then you're gonna do that a couple times, and then you're gonna try to twist it a little farther. Sometimes it's good to hold the leg so you're not holding the leg. You're gonna twist a little farther. You're gonna hear what kind of sounds like a gross little pop or crack, and that means that the spur has separated from the skin, and then you can usually just pull it right off. And then you've got a nice little spur that looks like a cool little horn. And if you want to make little Viking outfits for your chickens, you can glue them onto a little helmet and then stick it on your chickens and make your chickens Vikings. Because, that's what you do when you're bored and crafty. Okay. I don't know if we'll be able to see it. Let me see. Yeah, I have a little cock on my arm. So there's my chicken tattoo. So, and yes, it's a little cock because it's a funny joke between me and my friends. Because I've had chickens since I lived in the suburbs. So even when I was kind of like a suburban city kid, I always raised chickens. I just always liked them. So that's why my second tattoo was a chicken. But you're wondering why I'm walking funny is I'm carrying a jug of water back to the barn so I can make sure everybody has water, because that was our whole purpose of why we walked over to the water before we start talking about chickens anyways. So okay, another water container. So did everybody have a good day? Because I did. Had to go work earlier this morning. That's why my show was late, but it all worked out perfect. So other than my good day this morning, my afternoon went well. So, oh great. So a picture without my hat on. Anyways, thanks. That's a good one. I like it. Just picking on you because besides that picture, I don't have a lot. There's not a lot of times. If you ever go through my gamut of pictures, I usually always have a hat. It's just kind of my thing. Anyways, let's see. Anything else? Anybody out there in Good, I'm glad, Coffee Bear. Well, I do think it's funny that the French do use the rooster because um, the rooster is okay. Yeah, I'll look on my computer. I'll open up big. So one of the things that I think is really funny about what's really funny about the French is, the French have not really ever won a war. They've pretty much always been on the losing side of the war. And if you ever meet like you've ever seen like a really young little rooster, they will walk around and they will strut around and they will crow and they will crow and they're like, I'm gonna fight him, and they'll get in there and they'll do a couple fights and then they realize they're losing and so they'll run away and they'll stand in the background going, we can take them, guys, let's fight him, beat him up. And yeah, I know I'm adding human traits to an animal, but that's what I'm gonna do. And so thinking about it like that, and then now thinking that the French use a chicken as their main logo, it just also, or their main thing, it's just really funny. So it's also funny to also think about that we use an eagle, and eagles eat chickens and like lots of other animals. And so it kind of has, there's a whole level of crazy symbiotic, that another word that I can't say today because my mouth's not working right. But symbolism. So the dude, that's funny. The dude out of Liberty. Yeah, I do wonder why we ever got. One day I want to talk about that statue because I'd really like to know more of the whole idea of why we were given the statue at that particular time. So I think there's more to it that need to be digged in deeper and researched. I need to stick you guys over here for just a second because I have to dump some water and some stuff. So, but yeah, anybody else have any other good questions or bad questions or just questions about homesteading, farming, all that kind of stuff? It does. The Statue of Liberty, it looks like a guy. And it's called the Statue of Liberty. And it doesn't actually, they don't make it clear that it's a chick. So, we always just agree. Mason's giving Masons a statue, yes. Speaking of Masons, I'm just going to pass this along. I'm really trying, I'm on the fence about this. So, a while ago, I was offered if I wanted to become one, I could. Oh yeah, I have dogs and cats. I have about 9 cats and I have 2 dogs. So going back to the whole Mason question. So I was offered one day, somebody asked me if I ever wanted to become a Mason to just let them know because they're somebody kind of important. Now normally I'm not a fan of secret societies because I think they're weird. But the more I learn about it, the more it'd be kind of interesting. The more it'd be really interesting to learn more about it and maybe learn it from the inside. So my cats actually don't bother. My cats don't bother the chickens because my chickens will kick their butts. My cats don't bother the bunny rabbits because the bunny rabbits run up to them. um, my dogs don't spend a lot of time back in the farm area, but when they do, they just bark at the ducks and chase them around and nothing. There's nothing I'm worried about them harming them or anything. So nothing there that I'm worried about. Yeah, I know people do it for business networking. I wouldn't need to do it for the business networking. In the last couple years, I have done a pretty good job of people know who I am here, and I've worked with Rotarians, and I've worked with some churches, and I worked with a bunch of people. Yes, Dan. They do, because I've totally learned that. So my cats will eat wild birds. They'll eat wild rabbits. The rabbits that run around in my yard, the cats will start chasing them, and those rabbits will stop and run towards the cat, and the cat will be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! This is not how it's supposed to be," and they'll just ignore them, and the cat kind of looks depressed that its prey just ran at them, like it's something that it's not supposed to do. So that is totally true. We'll skip the rest of the Mason talk till another day. But yeah, um, yeah, the cats and dogs don't seem to bother anything. My pig, she doesn't bother. She doesn't bother anything, which is awesome because a 600-pound pig that wants to bother something can cause a lot of issues. Yeah, some dogs. There's other, like we had a Weimaraner, and the Weimaraner, she would do the craziest stuff. The Weimaraner would chase a deer, and then when the deer would freeze, she would freeze, and she would just stand absolutely still, staring at the deer, and it didn't matter how close she was. What was really funny one time is the Weimaraner was chasing the cows up on the mountain, and one of the baby cows froze. Well, then the cow started running at her again, and she just stayed there frozen. And so I had to like go and like grab her collar and force her to run because the cows were like gonna charge her. It was the craziest thing. Now my little dog Mytherin, he thinks he's a really big dog, so he'll chase anything. Now he's never attacked anything, but he'll chase anything down and think he's the awesome stuff. Yeah, and I'll tell you, Dixon Cider, if your cat ever does try to bother any of your chickens or ducks will they can tear up a cat pretty good. Actually, a decent sized rooster can cause some major issues to a dog. It's happened. We had a feral dog come into my yard and try to attack. Well, it actually killed one or two of my rabbits. But I had two roosters out at the time, and the roosters beat the crap out of this dog. So it was just it was insane. I've also seen my roosters and ducks all work together to take out a hawk. There was a hawk flying around in my backyard, and it was trying to coming down and attacking some of the hens and such. And the roosters and the ducks came in. The duck grabbed its tail. The rooster started flogging the hawk, and I didn't think the hawk was going to make it. Hawk's just trying to flap its wings and take off. And you got a duck grabbing its tail. It was awesome. Okay, I'll check that out. Thanks. Yeah, also, the other reason, we'll jump back on it for a second. The other reason I haven't really focused so much on that is right now, I've told people this before, and if you go back and you see in any of my other videos, I will address that in just a second, Dan. So, I also there's a whole lot I'm trying to do to try to educate people and to try to make the world a little bit better, and trying to join another club or whatever you want to call the Masons. Might be more work than I have right now because I'm trying to build community, and right now building community involves talking to as many people and getting the word out there as much as possible. So I've only ever had one rooster that I could not get to stop attacking people, and that guy ended up having to live in a cage for a long period of time. But in general, first off, you don't want your kids to run. And you want your kids to be around the roosters when they're really young so that the roosters get used to also seeing the kids. Or if you're introducing a new rooster, make sure your kid's there with you. And have your kids not make like jerky movements. This quick little jerky movement puts a lot of animals on their fight or flight pattern. And kids are really good at jerking. And also kids have a higher pitch voice. And so that the chickens can hear different sounds than we can. So they might be able to hear a different type of octane, and they might see it as a threat and such. So So that's my advice there. Why the chicken cross the road? That's the super easy one. The chicken crossed the road because there's food over there. That's it. There's no other reason why a chicken would cross the road. If there's not food over there, it won't cross the road. It really is that simple. That joke, once you have chickens, you realize chickens will go anywhere if there's food, and if there's not food someplace and they know there's not food there, they won't go there. They won't even look to go there. They're just like, I know there's not food there. You're lying to me. So that's why chickens cross the road. Because of food. Because that's probably the thing that drives chickens more than anything else. Food, then probably hens. So, because your hens lay eggs and your roosters lay hens. And that's the easiest way to refer to it as. What came first, the chicken or the egg? The dinosaur? And I don't believe in dinosaurs, so that's actually why I say that. So I think I think there's a mutation that happened. There was a mutation that happened, and whatever was sitting on the mutation, which was an egg, it hatched out of the egg, and that's where the first chicken type item came from, and then that chicken thing mated with whatever hatched it, and then those genes were inbred, and then we all of a sudden got chickens. So a dinosaur. Or a velociraptor, if that's even funnier to you. So that's what came first. And all humor involved in what I just said there. So okay, everybody has got water in here. Except for this dude, which I have to come back and get him some water. No, crocodiles, yeah, I would say crocodiles are also probably real dinosaurs. That term dinosaur just makes me laugh now that I know more of what I know. Even if the fossils and crap we're finding out, even if they are from some really old crazy animal, saying dinosaurs is pretty much the equivalent of saying animals. So, there's probably mammal dinosaurs and bird dinosaurs and reptile dinosaurs and things of that sort. So, and Coffee Bear, I have an answer. I have an answer for everything. It's just sometimes it's wrong. Okay, yeah, sure. Swiss check bear, if that's cool. If you're gonna go with the Bible story and you believe that God created everything, then yes, God came first because He created everything, and it's in the artistic perfection that we see today. So I can't disagree with that. I just like saying dinosaurs because it's funnier and it's not an expected response. I don't know if you guys ever seen. If you guys aren't familiar with guineas, you want to talk about something that looks like a modern day dinosaur. Since we're talking about dinosaurs, why is my camera not spinning around? There we go. Here's a guinea. What's crazy is, see that horn on their head? That grows as they get older. And the older the guinea, the larger the horn. So, what's also really crazy is taking a guinea, that annoying sound that you hear a guinea doing, and playing it in slow motion. And it kind of sounds like the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park. I kind of wonder if they were doing that. Oh, you guys are funny. Though, that all being said, I have my own theory one day. One day, when we're not talking about farming, and I'll maybe another channel in a faraway land, I will break down my particular theories on why humans are so different and why there's quite a bit of a variety of us, and why some of the interesting stuff that I've learned throughout the course of my life, why I'm perfectly fine saying that there's multiple species of humans. Well, thank you, Coffee Bear. I try to stay positive. I try to just teach people with what I can teach. Just trying to make the world better, because if each of us try it just a little bit, we can have a pretty awesome world in the future. You had a random guinea living in your neighborhood. No, you didn't have a random guinea in your neighborhood. Someone hates you. Okay? Someone put that guinea in your neighborhood so that it would be really loud at the wee hours of the morning. So, you have an enemy, my friend, because guineas do not just show up in people's neighborhoods. They are there as a terrorist act. Because that's what I've always said. If you want your neighbors to hate you, get a flock of guineas. Because they are loud and annoying. Yeah, definitely try the sunchokes. There's a couple different types. They are all spectacular. Yeah, I can actually. I have a lot of opinion. I have a lot of opinions on mud flood. Really, I do. It's not something I'm going to get into right now. You know, I'm not even sure if we're the same species anymore. I'm just gonna. I'm gonna add that. I understand exactly what you're saying, but I'm gonna say the species thing is kind of important because of the negative and positive blood type. But yes, we're all different races, absolutely. And by what I'm saying doesn't mean that one's better than the other or that there's something right or wrong with anything else. I'm just adding. We'll talk about that one day. Oh, guineas are spectacular alarm birds. If you want to know anything, and not even a person, if you want to know about a bag that flew on your property, or you want to know about, I don't know, you want to know about that leaf that upset that guinea, then, well, it got really blue out. Um, I feel like I could, I think people might mistaken me as a Jew because it's so blue out right now. Sorry. Anyways, yeah, guineas are just absolutely spectacular. They are my favorite. They are by far my favorite guard animal that I think you could possibly get. They they make lots of noise and tell you just about everything that's going on wherever you're at. So let me get this guy some water. Here's his water. Sorry it's dark in here. I just want to make sure I get this guy some water before we're finishing up. So 16. Okay, guys. Well, I need to start heading back to the house. My phone just told me that I'm at a 50 battery life, and my phone doesn't usually like getting below 9. So I just wanted to make sure that we could wrap it up. I wanted to thank everyone today for joining me and feeding the chickens and all of the silliness and all the funness, and I hope some people learned some stuff. And Coffin, we will talk about that. I actually have some your yes, we'll talk about that another time because I'm agreeing with you and disagreeing at the very same time, and it's way more complicated than I can say in just a few more things. So, but yeah, and thank you guys again. During most of the time you'll see my streams on, but usually at 15:30 is when I do 15:30 my time. If you always look in the bottom corner of my stream, you will always see what time it is here in Flat Top. I do that because I like to stream my farm all the time, so when I'm away, I can see what's happening on my farm. I also play Alan Watts or Pro 777 or some other great podcasts that people suggest. So you'll always see my stream on. Just if you pay attention to the little title, I usually try to title it something fun or Let's Feed the Chickens or whatever the name of my show is. So, and you guys, if you ever have a question, you just need to get a hold of me. I have a Discord, which is over in the corner. And I also, you guys can also send me an email at xdrfirefly@gmail.com, and I'll always be happy to answer whenever I can. Well, friends, again, thank you so much for joining me this evening. And thanks for the Ugly Jew for letting all you guys come over and hang out with me today. So till next time, till later, thank you guys so much. It's the Baron, Justin, or Dr. Firefly, whatever you'd like to call me. Anyways, friends, have yourself a wonderful rest of the day. Adios.